Disney's live-action adaptation of the beloved classic Lilo and Stitch blends a familiar story with brand-new elements, and that concept applies to the movie's cast as well. While most of the roles in the story of a destructive alien who comes to Earth and finds a family were also present in the remake, some of the familiar voices from the animated version took on new characters. More than many of Disney's other live-action remakes, Lilo and Stitch leans on nostalgia in the form of shot-for-shot repeats of some of the original's funniest and most memorable scenes. With so much of the animated movie simply translated to live action, the updated cast plays a big role in helping the story feel fresh and justify the existence of the remake in the first place. The Rotten Tomatoes scores for Lilo and Stitch prove how effective the strategy of blending the old and the new is for Disney, as the movie has debuted with some of the most positive reviews yet for a live-action remake. While most of the cast were replaced for the live-action, several key players from the original made appearances elsewhere in the movie. Perhaps most importantly, the distinctive voice of Stitch carried over from the animated classic to the live-action. Disney changed virtually nothing about Stitch's appearance, and brought back Chris Sanders to voice the adorable alien once again. Aside from delivering one of the most unique and recognizable voices in all of Disney's extensive animated filmography, Sanders is animation royalty from a filmmaking perspective. The 63-year-old writer and director actually wrote and directed the original Lilo and Stitch, along with a slew of other celebrated animated movies from the last 20 years, including How to Train Your Dragon, The Croods, and most recently, The Wild Robot. Sanders received Academy Award nominations for his work on each of the aforementioned 4 films. Sanders has voiced Stitch for nearly every piece of media he has appeared in, from straight-to-video sequels, the animated series, video games, and marketing materials, and he lent his voice once again for the live-action remake. Celebrated actress and Grammy Award-winning musical artist Tia Carrere voiced Lilo's big sister Nani in the original Lilo and Stitch, but she returned in a completely different capacity in the live-action remake. The role of Cobra Bubbles from the animated movie was essentially split into Courtney B. Vance's version of the character, who was exclusively a CIA agent, and the new character Mrs. Kikoa, who was the legitimate social worker in charge of Nani and Lilo's case. She brings heart and understanding to a character with a difficult job, and hers is a very welcome return for the remake. Jason Scott Lee voiced David Kowena, a friend of both Nani and Lilo who has a crush on Nani in the original Lilo and Stitch, but like Tia Carrere, he also returned in a different role for the remake. He made a brief cameo as the manager of the luau that Nani works at before Stitch destroys it. Lee is a seasoned actor and martial artist, most known for his role as Mowgli in another Disney live-action remake, 1994's The Jungle Book. The role of David still exists in the remake, but the character is played by Capo Dudoit. Amy Hasagawa had only a small role in the original Lilo and Stitch, as she played Mrs. Hasagawa, the bespectacled old woman who runs the flower shop that Nani was seeking employment at during her job hunt montage. She played a brand new character in the live-action remake, Nani and Lilo's neighbor Tutu. In the movie, David is actually a neighbor of the Pelikai sisters, and Tutu is the grandmother that he lives with. As their longtime neighbor, she is almost like a grandmother to the girls as well. Tutu is actually the person responsible for Lilo purchasing Stitch from the shelter instead of Nani, who allowed it in the original. Her role is important not only as a support system for the 2 orphaned sisters, but with Nani and Lilo destined to be separated, Tutu offers to let Lilo live with her and David, so that even if Nani is no longer her primary caretaker, she will live just next door. Amy Hill brings both warmth and humor to the new character, and she's perhaps the best original character in the remake. While some of the key players returned for the live-action remake, There are plenty of characters from the original Lilo and Stitch who did not reappear in the new movie. The two most conspicuous differences were Agent Wendell Pleakley, the Earth expert from the United Galactic Federation, and Dr. Jumba Jokiba, the mad scientist and creator of Experiment 626.